think most people are registered now. There may be one or two more coming. So I want to wish you all very, very welcome. There are many of you, which is fantastic. And just to say, this is the first seminar with members of the WOP in the second year, working toward the Congress of the World Association of Psychoanalysis, which takes place in April in Rio de Janeiro. And this is about the unconscious and the speaking body. So we're absolutely delighted that Antoni is over from Barcelona. And he is going to speak about sex and the body. Antoni is an AME, an analyst member of the school, of the Spanish school, and of the school of the WOP. And he is also a professor in the Department of Philosophy in the Autonomous University of Barcelona. Antoni has been here before, and so we're absolutely delighted that he is here again, and we hope that it's not the last time. But that's for another day. So with that, I want to hand over to Antoni, and we're, again, as I say, absolutely delighted you're here, Antoni. Okay.
Thank you. I try to win the right to come again. Well, we usually split the seminar in two parts, theoretical part and cases, clinical cases presentation. But in one sense, what I am talking about is a clinical case, my clinical case. Of course, I am not going to speak to you about my unconscious, my Oedipus complex. I have done that when I was AI, and that's the past. Just I try to say that for us, theory is intertwined, is not splitted from clinical. Not in the sense that was usual in the API, the countertransference. In the presentation of cases with that logic of countertransference, we often are unable to distinguish what belongs to the psychoanalyst or therapist and what belongs to the symptom treated. And it goes down to a kind of empirical presentation of the feelings of the ways that the therapist, the things that the therapist feels in himself, that has no interest at all. We are trying, the members of the WOP, of that great movement of the Freudian field, for example, to make that more greater than the members, strictly members of the WAP, but the persons who follow the teachings of the Freudian field, following the Lacanian orientation of Miller and company. We are now, in general, since many years, several years, to confront the last teaching of Lacan. The last teaching of Lacan is very difficult. Why is it difficult? Because he tries to speak at the level of jouissance. Not if you speak about desire, there's a distance, there's an object of the desire, the object A. But there's a moment, a very special moment that Jekyll and Miller pointed very precisely in the seminar 20, that is in the 1973, where Lacan says the object A is a semblant. That is to say, it's not an object. It's a semblant. A semblant has many. I have to do now. I have to begin now teaching in the clinical section in Barcelona about the Miller's course about the nature of semblance, and I will have to work about that. We have the first manifestation of what a semblant is in the seminar of how do you say anguish. I refuse to translate angst for anxiety. That's Lacanian, and that in the translation of Lacanian texts to Spanish, they translate anxiety for ansiedad, and that's not anguish. Ansiedad is a state of uncomfortable state, but angst in German, anxiety, anguish is more acute. Is a moment that can be not very difficult for the subject, impossible to stand, to feel, is a moment when the body seems not respond to the language, for example. Then he speaks about theories of anxiety, Lacan, and at the end of the first term of that seminar, he finds a text of the Ecclesiastes in the Bible, the Kohelet, in Jewish tradition, where there is the sentence you all know, vanitas, vanitatis, et omnia vanitas. This vanitas, that's the translation of Saint Jerome, is determined the word in Hebrew is not vanity as for us. Is is when it's cold and you are walking and speaking. There's the vapor, the steam of the breath makes kind of little cloud, as to say. That's the vanitas. Something that has a form, can have a form that can be grateful or sinister, all of phantasm, what you want, and then vanishes. That cloud comes from the language. Then when we speak, we make semblance, we make kind of realities. It's more or less what Jeremy Bentham called fictions. Because all these terms come in the learning in Lacan's teaching when he wants to speak about jouissance. It's very difficult to speak about jouissance. You don't have an object. The object is created by speaking. And then when we say jouissance, we are enjoying. And then we can, with the language, we can't hold the object of the jouissance, because the same language is producing and subtracting jouissance from our body. Then the problem is has no solution. Yes, it has, but it's very difficult and tough work. That's what Lacan expresses in his seminars from 20th seminar on. Trying to, with the language, to reach, to hold the effects of language that are volatile, that are we lose it when we hold it. It's loose. He speaks, for example, about the concept. Concept in German is Begriff, and Begriff means to grip, to catch, to hold. to hold in your hand, and then you can hold semblant, because when you hold it, it disappears or it transforms in itself. The main example of semblant is the rainbow. There's nothing in the rainbow. It's our eye that produces the effect of the rainbow. The rainbow is there. You can photograph it, but rainbow is not there. Yes, if you can go all over the rainbow and have all the fantasies you want, because it doesn't exist. When you try to hold the rainbow is in another place. You don't have it. Then we are in that situation. Is that fantasy? Is that delusion? Why not? Lacan accepts that this teaching has the level of a delusion. That's, for example, the interest for James Joyce. I'm not going to speak about James Joyce. It's I think you know him better, much better, and then that's the sense of that teaching. Then I try then to make a signification that is something that we can share from my sense. My sense is my symptom. What it makes sense for me, but not for others. For perhaps for somebody that loves me or hates me, that can make sense. But the sense is not transmissible. No, there's no transmission. There's no explanation of sense. But we try to make a signification that can be shared, and then to translate what is personal, what is our creation, our invention, my invention in that case, because I'm mainly speaking now, then for the others. Something that is particular, contingent, that comes from the contingencies of my life, that is real. I can't change the place where I was born. What was my maternal language? Many things, the time in the history when I was born, etc., etc. That things are past. That is to say, they are real. I can't change. I can to try to understand better, but change. In the end, I cannot change that. Even if we say that psychoanalysis can have the meaning of new birth, not reborn as that religion sect. George Bush was reborn with the facts we know. Not very interesting, I think. War and things like that, but a kind of new, with a new writing of our history. That's possible in the psychoanalysis. But then I introduce a third term. There's the sense, the meaning that can be shared, the sense that is contingent, the meaning can be translated in a teaching, and then there's the writing. Lacan, when speaking about jouissance, discovers or shows that writing is a better way to transmit the logic of jouissance, because writing has that sense. That writing, he tried to catch in the first, the more ancient writing. Writing is something quite new in the human history. 4, 5, 6, well, with China is more difficult, but some millennia, several millennia. That's nothing. Well, humanity has 1 million, more or less, depending on the archaeologists, 1 million years, and then in that million years, writing has a very small place at the end. We are sons of the writing. For example, our name is written in the register of the state. That only 200 years. In the 17th, 18th century, men and women changed the name at will. They changed the place, they changed the name. There was no register. And when we speak of the name of the father, for example, in our time, the time of empire, Lacan makes an allusion to our time, the time of the imperialism after the empire, but the empire had not registered. Louis XIV, Louis XIV, even in the 18th century, I don't know, in the English-speaking countries, if that was a register. I presume that comes from Queen Victoria, following the European example. And then that was the empire. But imperialism is another thing. Is our time is the time of imperialism. Perhaps no more. Perhaps we are in a moment where imperialism is changing another thing. But that's subject to discussion. What our times is historical times are changing many things. Well, that's one point. The other point is English language. English language, as you can see, is a strange language for me. Very interesting. It's a beautiful language. But the more I learn English, less I can I can speak. I can understand English. It's very. It's quite a special language. You can say when you speak French, you can speak French, you can speak Italian, but I think you can never say when you can speak English, because for me it's without end, without rules. There's a language that invents itself day by day. That's my vision of English. And you don't have an academy like in French or in Spanish. In German there's something, yes, Oxford dictionaries and grammars more or less, but English is more empirical, like the philosophical tradition of not only of Great Britain, also Scotland with Hume, and Irish and English has that tradition to accept any variation that can be integrated in that. Then I think English is non all, but two. Is not all language. Is never ending. That's very interesting. There's a correspondence between Freud and Ernst Jones. Ernst Jones said, or Freud said, I don't know, psychoanalysis is impossible in English because you have two roots, the Anglo-Saxon root and the Latin root. And you can say the same thing in with these two, and then repression is takes that as a form of repression. You can slip to one or to another, and interpretation is difficult. I think it's English school, what we call classical English school, has done very much to give to the English force, the power to interpret. Interpretation is a power. Then you have the responsibility of you make usage of your language in that sense of trying to speak about Vicens. You have one advantage is the teaching of Lacan about James Joyce, where he found that Joyce, with his writing, could speak Vicens, put Vicens in the language. That's very interesting. But on the other side, translation is difficult. For me, is more than that. Well, we to read Lacan, this late teachings of Lacan, we are obliged to presume the Vicens that is in his word, in his words. Lacan spoke his symptom very different from our, but there's no meta language, means that we speak Vicens all the time. The teaching of Lacan is not a meta language about our symptoms. It's his symptom, and there is the transmission comes from an effect of transfer, of transference. That effect we have to live in. It's not possible to translate in terms of university teaching. With desire, it was more or less possible. We have the object A, was something objective. We could write in the blackboard or whiteboard, and then make mathemes. Yes, that's true. But Lacan, when tries to give an objectivity to that relationship between language and Vicens, he goes beyond writing and uses the knots. That is a writing without any kind of meaning. Even the word whole has no meaning. It was in Barcelona last year, music hall show called The Whole, making an allusion to what you are thinking. And even that sense is not for example, Lacan could say that the best example of a whole was a linear vector, infinite straight line, because it's a line that has a hole all around. Then the whole is not something we are into. That he changes the topological semblance of our thinking. That's the aim of that learning. We have to read all Lacan, but from seminar 20 on, things change. I think change very much. Well, then I have had some difficulties preparing a text. I try to make sense. You know, in English there's a difficult, for example, with Vicens, semblant par lettre. How do you translate Vicens? You don't translate it. You know the commentator of Lacan about enjoy Coca-Cola. enjoy Coca-Cola has no preposition, it's not a verb pronoun. In French is different. The relationship between language and jouissance in English is different from the other languages. Every language has its relationship, but in English there's something peculiar. As we can see in the difficulty of translating jouissance. Semblant, you don't translate either. Semblance, I think it's more or less the same. In Spanish we translate semblante. That is a neologism. Semblante in Spanish is the face. And that has been translated like that, and we cannot change that, but it's a neologism. A Lacanian neologism that's not very practical for transmission, because it makes the effect of pitching, jargon, argot, pitching, of a closed language, a language of a community that makes an exclusive community, and that's not the aim of Lacan, of psychoanalysis in general. Well, and Lacan makes a very particular usage of French language. It was not a joke at all when Lacan, lecturing in the USA universities, said he tried to learn English with Joyce writings. That makes the public laugh, but he is right. One of these terms, la langue, impossible to translate, that is the language, the spoken language as, how to say it, as all languages are articulated, then the articulation of language. I tried to translate that as la lalia. Lalia is Latin word for speaking, and then I try to go to Latin to find the translation for la langue. I don't know in English at all how it is. La langue means the language as national, the language of a group, and even the language. We learn very much about the concept of la langue, of that language in the pure articulation, in the case with autistic usage of language. More or less, we could say that when we take the language not as a structure, a grammar, not studied as it is studied by the by linguists, but no linguists, philologues. Then we are all autistic. Autists, the interest for the autism is clinical interest, but it's also the interest is that autists show us what language or la langue really is. Not an instrument of communication at all. And then how comes communication? Lacan said, from misunderstanding. Misunderstanding is the essence of communication. Then that's the moment, the misunderstanding is the moment when the autistic begins to speak. He admits misunderstanding. You know surely that it's quite difficult for them. It wants a very particular and special transference to accept misunderstanding. They don't speak because they want to be understood, and it's impossible. Then I think in the clinics of autism we learn that evolution, the impossibility to define language as understanding, as human understanding, as human tried to show. Then there's another thing that comes from that is when we speak, if there is not understanding, what is misunderstanding? Yes, but what holds us together? What are you expecting? What I am expecting of what I try to say is an effect of transference, of transfer. A transfer changes its nature in the teaching of Lacan. The transfer is a bodily effect. Is a bodily event, a bodily event. If you have time and you can understand French, I recommend you the conferences of Eric Laurent that you can find in the podcast of the ECF. He teaches along the last course about all these themes, and he presents what is bodily and all. What is the transfer? Let's say like that of the concepts, the fundamental concepts of Lacanian teaching in that new time, in that last teaching. Many things are translated, are transferred in terms of a bodily event, even transference. Well, I am not going, I don't try to speak about transference. I show you where you can find interesting teachings about that. Our learning in this moment is oriented by the conference of Jekyll and Miller in view of the Congress that was alluded, the Congress in Rio, the unconscious and the speaking body. You have, I presume you know the text is in the WAP web page. And there's a magnificent translation in English. It's a very interesting text to read. Jekyll and Miller gives in that conference presentation of the subject of the Congress. This conference is a very orientation, is a complete orientation for the problems that I am trying to cope with here. In another, that's what is our orientation, Lacanian orientation, and then there's the what in the world happens in the present state of love and sex, the actual practices and customs related to love and sex in our time. They are far from the model of the 19th century when Freud's practice began, what we call Victorian sexuality. Then you can see everywhere how the problems of sex and gender, problems of sex as a practice, sex as a definition of difference, how all that is changed in our time. The problems of transgender, for example, and usages of sex are very generally admitted. in a part of humanity, and we see at the other side another part of humanity that if in one part it's more liberalism in general, in the other part there is a proximity, a sinister proximity between sex and death, in the jihadism, for example, where women are treated as the enemy, that can be put in prison. And there's another treatment of Juicens, of course. There are two completely different treatments of Juicens, and we are in that moment. Our starting point, trying to analyze all that, is the conviction we have of knowing, if we dare know, what a man is and what a woman is not. We have the idea we know what a man is and what a woman is not. On the other part, we see the feminism is always women that speak about, introduce novelties about that theme. Feminism has changed. The demand for equality of rights has left the place to what we could say a general feminization that can be welcome. Manship, the empire of men is what we can see in that part of the humanity where they put women in prison. Let's me say it like that. And then general feminization, what Lacan alluded, speaking of the general delusion. That's the good part of the delusion, is the feminine part of our speaking, of thinking. They're not all, not complete. That's the lunatic fringe, feminine fringe in humanity. That's what these activities are welcome. These are feminine activities. On my part, for example, I try to read in politics in general, where I think which are feminine activities in our civilization, or delusional, as you want, creative, innovative, that try to hold contingency and not necessity. The artist, from long time psychoanalysis has recognized that the artists go far beyond the psychoanalysts. The politicians, true politicians, that's very difficult. There are not very much politicians in the world. There are few, and even they are they have fear, horror of their own act as psychoanalysts. Psychoanalysis, what Freud called the impossible professions: politician, the teacher, pedagogue, the teacher, and the psychoanalyst. And the artist, that was impossible for Freud to understand what an artist was, because he had not very good artistic sense, I think. Not for music, not for arts. He was in Vienna, where there was an explosion of Art Nouveau and all that, and he wasn't sensible at all at least. He was old-fashioned. When Dora, you remember the case of Dora, Dora goes to, you can remember that Dora goes to an exhibition of paintings and makes a dream about that exhibition. That exhibition came from Wales, from Scotland, from Glasgow, the group of Macintosh. It was a modern style exhibition. I found the images of the wood with nymphs, and there's the most modern art in the moment. It was in the, if you have been in Vienna, you have visited the Secession Palace. It's a very small building when there are paintings of Gustav Klimt. That was the taste of Dora. Dora was modern. She smoked. In the beginning of the 20th century, she smoked. She was a modern woman, not Freud. Freud smoked, so he was a man. And he wasn't sensible at all. He went in Italy. He went to see Mozart, a Mozart opera, but because it was in the street, he had a great attachment to archaeology. That's another thing, and the images are archaeological value, have archaeological value, not the paint. No, he had not well. The return of the repressed is Freud, the painter. Freud, his grandson, Lucien Freud, is a great painter. That's the return of the repressed, of the unknown for Freud. Lacan had more taste. He understood much more artists. His friendship with Poulain, with Jacques Prévert, with Picasso, with all the artists, he understood. For cinema, yes, he was completely right. Cinema from Fellini on has lost his artistical supremacy. Cinema has become, in general, mostly an entertainment event, not a truly artistic event. But he was, I think, in the line of what was, well, the artist, then the teacher. The teacher, when there is an authentic teacher, there is also that proximity to contingency. That is what in psychoanalysis we have every day. And politician, there is politicians are very difficult people. I don't know personally any true politician, but artists I have known several, but not politicians. And yes, they have that dimension that for us is incomprehensible, and there is no a cause. We don't know the cause of the acting of a politician. I was watching TV series made in Canada about Lefebvre, the politician, an independentist politician in Quebec. It was quite well done, and you could see what's on there. What is the motor, the engine that makes that man act like this to make a political act. All modern civilization is trying to make war against femininity. Then there's a general misunderstanding about this feminization, and of course there's the state. State is not the same as politics. The state is the police, not politics. It's the police, as Lacan extracts from the lessons of Hegel. The state is the order. But a real politician is very difficult to have. That would be interesting, for example, to analyze the political position of James Joyce with Parnell and all that, and the independence movement. He extracted from this, but I don't know very much the history of Ireland to speak about that. I am in Catalonia. We have an independent movement in that moment, and we can see we are in a scene where many political acts, little political acts are being shown. Well, let's go. Then what comes down then to the fore for us as a guide to our clinic is what I call the semblant, the reign of the semblant. The semblant comes from what I have said, and also what Joan Rivière, following the path of Freud, recorded as the masquerade for femininity, a way to express what is for women to accept their ease, their agility with identifications. That's, I think, that's one of the interests for us with artists, women, politicians, true teachers, etc., is they are not identified with their selves, then they are more free. Then we we can say a feminization of our culture. This freedom is the same of the treatment of truth in psychoanalysis. In English, for example, what is a semblant in English? The verb to lie. It's always for me a problem to use the verb to lie. What does it mean? What I am talking about? About the truth or about making love? That's your language. There's a confusion between truth and the real, or not. Or not, you have what is to lie. It's here the meaning splits itself and gives and shows a jouissance of the language. It's the language that enjoys making that among thousand others, making a joke in itself. That's what James Joyce tried to put in Finnegan's Wake, to enclose all jouissance there. And that jouissance is not always, that's one point of what it was Miller that made that observation, that there are not jokes that make us laugh. It's the jouissance of the language. It's not a kind of jouissance. We don't laugh. It's a jouissance that we cannot evacuate as a laughing, making that noise that is not easy and is not language. It lets us in an expectation of something that is to come. What is to come is the name of the jouissance there shown, and not expressed, but shown, more or less. Well, then in our time we are responsible, one by one, for the mask we show. This responsibility is not eternal. It's not linked to a universal rule of normality in sex, for example. In our time, the body is exposed, nude, without disguise, or as the support of the semblant. Is there any nude today? There is no more pornography. When a star shows herself nude, is she nude? He made many surgery, plastic surgery. Is she nude? The breasts are nude or not? Or are a kind of skin dress that she put on? What is when nudity implies frontier? That frontier is blurred. It's no more defined. That's a feminization, the general feminization of the body. Our being then is our presence, the presence of our body. But being understood that the being is not interested, is not the aim. The aim of psychoanalysis is not to name the being of somebody. Is the contrary. Is the less being. Being is a metaphysical word. Is masculine word. Is something that is a weight on us. Is something that we try to liberate. Then there's or the being or the semblant. There are two options. The option of psychoanalysis is the semblant, not the being. To be a man, to be a woman, to be that or to be a psychotic, to be a neurotic, is the semblant. The game of semblances that make a structure, something that holds together, that holds fit for a time. Our being then, our being can be our presence, the presence of our body, but presence always requires an absence. Psychoanalysis has been searching with which kind of absence is the body. Only the body of the speaking being brings with it an absence. At the beginning, Freud spoke about castration. Castration is the name of an absence. Death drive is the name of an absence. The body is here but could not be here. We are born. That is to say, we will be there. Then we are here but we could not be here at the same time. That's the presence of, that's one of the names of the death drive. In the seminar of the ethics, Lacan translated the death drive, like Freudian death drive, to the sense of contingency. In the being, we are not contingent. We belong to the totality of the universe. That's not a responsibility. That's what Lacan said. When he criticized the clinics of IPA in his time, they instead of making existence more light, they charge them with the weight of the being. The being is a weight. We don't need. That impeaches us many things. The tome as a symbolic name of an absence. Sex in itself is an absence. Orgasm has the sense of an absence of being. And love. Love is for me the name of an absence. The metaphor of an absence is where that relationship with being and not being is unified in a metaphor. That's love. Love implies the contingency. That what I said, you are here, but you could not be here. And then, if you are here, why are you here? I don't know. Where were you before? Why we don't met before? If there is a semblance of necessity of love, that question is the name for me of the absence that is constituent of love. That is not well. Our being then is a semblance. Love gives this semblance a guarantee for a time. Not the sexual relationship that doesn't exist and therefore doesn't recognize the other. Jacqueline Miller expresses that when he characterizes the sexual act as a void, as it is shown in internet pornography, where sexual activity as such is deprived of all sense. It's not sexual activity. One porn actor said the quantity of if after a scene of sex a cat couldn't walk in the floor because the quantity of lubricant used. Everything is not only artificial; it's void of sense. What is most difficult is the collusion, the proximity of love and sex, of course, because love gives sense, but not to the sex, but the sex takes. But sex takes makes to proximity to a sense of love. You can then transform sexual activity, yes, as an activity of patinar.
Skate.
Skate.
Skating.
Skating. Yeah. In the glass. Everything.
Ice skating.
Yes, because that's brought me the image of the cat after a sex scene in porno, sliding in the lubricant. Nothing. There's no metaphor. There's not. Metaphor is love that brings metaphor. There's no metaphor. Even the usual metaphor was the jouissance, the masculine jouissance. Masculine jouissance has a limit, as you know. It's a physiological limit. But that has become the feminization of the world, has done that end less, has less the sense of a turning point, of a point or a punctuation of sex activity. Then we can show that then that the climax has less the sense of, and then there are people that are obsessed trying to define female ejaculation. That would mean that for women there's a limit. It's a fantasy that for women there's a limit. And well, that's then the language about with which we talk about sex has changed. Then psychoanalysis cannot try to cannot work to restore classical rules, because the transformations have their reason, its reason. Well, then if with sexual activity we can reach that 0 degree, you know that 0 degree was proposed by Roland Barthes to characterize a type of literature where the absence of sense is intended in an effort of transparence. It was the writing of Albert Camus or Alain Robbe-Grillet. Alain Robbe-Grillet is very tough to read. The table was white and the little block was there, and then there's nothing. There's 0 degree. It's not the metaphor that block means that I was in a hotel. I have a kind of culpability because I have stole that from the sense begins to boil to no, nothing. Yes, that was an experiment. I don't know the future of that experiment, but it was interesting in French literature to reach that 0, not absolute 0, but like that. Well, then sex can be absent of sense. Sense is another name of love. Making sense is to make love. Sense has the same personal, contingent, and uncountable characteristic of love. Love as sense never goes beyond the one. Love makes one, but not from the two. That's the point. Makes one a new significant, a new sign, but not makes one from the two. That's the point. Then in psychoanalysis, we go a step back, and we go backwards to the 0. A psychoanalyst is somebody that is in the 0 degree of love. Let me put it like that. A 0 degree of love, creating the possibility of a new one. That's the result of an analysis, the production of a new one, a new signifier, a new sign, a new one. That are terms in the Lacan's teaching. A new master signifier needs the 0 jouissance of the analyst. That's a problem. Not I don't know how to treat it. What is 0 jouissance? But it's a jouissance. But I don't know the name or the concept of that. But that's in the practice of psychoanalyst. Psychoanalyst is in the degree 0 of love, and then that permits to produce a new love. If you read the Seminar 11, the last lines go like this. Lacan describes the psychoanalyst like that. He is in the degree of where love is detached from life and death. That's an interpretation, and then that permits the creation of a new love. That's how psychoanalysis was born. Neurotic was somebody who was unable to love, and then let's try a kind of cure that can create a new possibility of love for that human being, the speaking being that can love. this zero jouissance of the psychoanalyst is the nothingness from which the creation ex nihilo is possible. Well, in that conference, Miller says, following Lacan, the par l'être, I don't know if there is a translation, the being, the par l'être makes a condensation of being, speaking and writing, and letter. This par l'être, perhaps the par l'être has his body rather than being it. The being of the par l'être is not his body, but he has it. Then that's the freedom of usage of the body. He has it, he is not. He doesn't identify with his body. That's important, because then it opens the possibility of treating sexual difference not in terms of anatomical difference, but in terms of logic. That's what Lacan does in his seminar, in a writing previous to seminar 20. The par l'être is grappling with his body as something imaginary, just as he is grappling with the symbolic. The third term, the real, is the complex or the implex of the two others. We have here, Miller shows here the crucial distinction of the body and the speech, because it splits jouissance in two, body event and unconscious. These are two ways of enjoy with to enjoy. The jouissance of the body leads to the escabeau, the stool of beauty. That's a term with which Lacan substituted sublimation. Does not. It's a thing that makes the body to stand up. An escabeau, a stool.
Small steps.
Small steps, but high. The other jouissance, the jouissance of the speech, sustains the symptom. One jouissance is of the body, the jouissance of the stool of beauty. That needs that characteristic of beauty. The other jouissance, the jouissance of the speech, drifts outside the body. And then Miller makes a turn in that conference, very interesting, very audacious, even if he attributes audace to Lacan. Audaciously and logically, Lacan identifies the jouissance of the speech with phallic jouissance, inasmuch as it is in disharmony with the body. Here is when the sexual difference takes another form. It's not an anatomical difference. It's a difference of speech, of signifier. Then, for one sex, there's a part of his body that becomes that takes the value of the jouissance of the speech. Why don't say that, for example, in hysteria, in the first cases of hysteria, that part of the body that condensed the jouissance of the speech could be, for example, the arm or the fingers of Anao, in front of course, the the father in bed, father ill in bed. Why not to or the throat of Dora, with that phallic significance of her cough. Was it cunnilingus? Was it fellatio? It was part of the body that took the significance of language, of phallic. Which is what we try to do with language? What try we to do speaking? We try to make significance, not sense. That's personal. It's not. We try to make sense, but signification. We try to make signification. All signification is phallic. That's Lacan interpretation. That's a teaching of Lacan. Then is for that in the seminar 20 he can say, when we speak, excuse me, is the word, we fuck. We are copulating. We are doing something that doesn't exist. But we do that with language. Then we can see the tension of the cause of the unconscious, because language cannot reach an end, cannot reach a limit. That's the lesson of women. Passé la borne, il n'y a plus de limite. When women, that Lacan, from his infantile readings, and I found in Paris the histories. There was cartoons, the first cartoons, the most antique cartoons of La Famille Fenouillard. That was a family that traveled with a father quite ridiculous, and a mother that was and sons. And the father brings family until the North Pole. And when they reach the North Pole, there's a pole. That's the pole. And the father, that father quite ridiculous, imposture, with the always
with an imposture.
Imposture, always the father was, there are no more fathers. Well, there are, we don't practice them. Then he said the sentence, past the pole, there's no limit. And that's a sentence that Lacan takes as an axiom for feminine sexuality. They are beyond the pole. And then there's no limit. Of course, there's no limit. And men and women are afraid of that. The flight from womanhood, that I think it was Haring Horney that defined, is for both sexes. We are coping with that in Barcelona in March, in that clinical conversation. The theme is that men and women flight from womanhood. And Jagal and Miller proposed us the title masculine, la protesta masculina,
Masculine protest.
Masculine protest is unisex, is for both sexes. That is to say, both sexes flight from womanhood. Perhaps we are in a moment, historical moment, when men and women flight less from womanhood. Perhaps that's for psychoanalysis an opportunity, and to reinterpret all the new demands of feminism. For example, the demand for the abolition of the sexual difference. There is only one sex. Yes, why not? But feminine. And masculinity is a restriction in the feminine. Then the pole shows its nature of semblant. Then there's an artifact, something that men have, can have, and men and women can concord in the existence of that semblance, and then past the pole that means a frontier limit. There's no limit, and there's no limit. But as I said, perhaps we pay that the price of this liberalism or libertinage, in one sense, with the surgence, the presence of a law, a very sinister law that tries to impose the masculine empire. We are seeing, and we can then think why young men that have our same costumes and speak our language and have our culture are attracted to go to these places. Young women go there and know that they are being transformed in object for that empire. That's quite enigmatic in general, but we hope to have testimonial records of that movement. Well, one Jewish sense is of the body. I don't say in the body, because that's a definition of the body as an inside, and it's not that. And the other drifts outside the body. The Jewish sense that drifts outside the body, we know it very well, is phallic Jewish sense. What is difficult is to speak about the Jewish sense that is of the body, that is off limits, and that flights from meaning, from phallic signification. How to speak about that? How to treat that in our clinic? Well, we try then something with tools that are not adequate for that. We know that. That's what we have to cope with in our clinics. We know that we are treating that Jewish sense that is of the body with an instrument, language, that is only partially adequate, proper for this treatment. Then our practice is beyond limits. Is not then the problem becomes that of the end of analysis. For Freud, the end of analysis was very clear. It was an obstacle. An obstacle. He, the text analysis with final and not final analysis is a confession of Freud. He says, with great sincerity, I can only understand phallic signification. Only that. But, as Lacan says, but that he understood. very well. But there is something beyond that. Can be. Huh? Then there's a rock. There's a rock of castration. There's not the rock. There is in all in the final of the analysis for men and women, the obstacle is the same: the flight from womanhood. A man wants not be treated as a woman in the fantasy. That what Freud experienced it with Ferenczi. That's the case, the principal case in unendliche analysis. The case is Ferenczi. Ferenczi didn't want to be treated as a woman. Didn't want to recognize Freud as a father, as a somebody having the clarity of the meaning of the phallus. He tried to flight from that, and then Freud doesn't define the standard end of analysis. He defines his position to the end of the analysis. When a man doesn't want to be treated as a woman, I don't know what to do. That's the limit for me. Because Freud had a knowledge of womanhood, a limited knowledge of womanhood. We can say that. He had the knowledge that he could have, not only because he was a Victorian mentality, but because of his metapsychology. His metapsychology is rooted in biology, in the logic of in the articulation of the neuron. He was a neuroscientist. Then we can read the interest of some analysts to look for metapsychology in neurosciences. It's a reedition of the obstacles Freud had found. Well, and for women, I don't know what to do when a woman has the envy of the masculine organ, the possibility of treating a part of her body as a phallic meaning, to give that part of the body the unicity of a pole. And I don't know what to do there. Well, that's that's a treatment of the sexual difference. But Lacan goes beyond, and Lacan goes beyond because he knew a little more about illusion, about psychosis, as Lacan as Freud. Freud always tried to penetrate, when he tries to penetrate in the secret of delusion of President Schreber, he has only the phallic signification, and he tries to make the logic of the jouissance of Schreber in terms of homosexuality, and where is the phallus there? It's the phallus that goes here, there, and there is a phallus, of course, but as a signifier like the other ones. And then that's the reason why Lacan, when he reads Freud, he says the most interesting point is where he analyzes language, the grammatical sentences of the language of the psychosis. And then that's the new horizon that Lacan opens up. We have desire, we have jouissance. When we enter in the field of jouissance, we are beyond the pole, And we have not the rock, we have the sun of the desert. Lacanian Miller once finishes a commentary about neurosis, psychosis, where in neurosis there is desire, in the psychosis there is the desert, desire, as two terms that referring to the phallic signification. Well, I have written more things, but I will. We finish at 1. Yeah. Well, I will only show you something. A fragment of a seminar 7. That's short, and then we can speak. In the seminar 7, in the lesson 22, the demand for happiness and the promise of analysis, we found a fragment that was my inspiration for giving the title of that, I don't dare say, conference. I am trying to read it and to comment a bit. Psychoanalysis, says Lacan, makes the whole achievement of happiness turn on the genital act. It's a lesson when he speaks about sexual jouissance, where seminar 7 is in the 60s. Lacan is working at seminar. He's working about is the seminar of the ethics. He has tried. Is the first expression of the logic of the jouissance under the term of das Ding, the thing. The thing is not phallic. The thing is feminine, yes, is Antigone, but is the first, I think, the first conceptualization in Lacan of the logic of jouissance, and he tries to put to search for that, to find that in the genital act. Then form of jouissance, the form of jouissance that we understand as the highest form of happiness, not other thing, happiness. When we speak about be happy, the term, the limit is the genital act. There are more other things is the highest pleasure. There is something beyond pleasure, principle, we know, but the highest pleasure is genital act. Psychoanalysis makes the whole achievement of happiness turn on the genital act. It is therefore necessary to draw the proper consequences from this. It is doubtless possible, it's Lacan who speaks, is doubtless possible to achieve, to reach for a single moment in this act something, I found a translation somewhere in the net, in this act something which enables one human being to be for another in the place that is both living and death of the thing. Is what I tried to express. In that moment, the other is both living and death of the thing. The other is the thing in that precise moment. Well, Lacan presents us the moment when genital act reaches the climax. In this moment, life and death become equivalent in the form of the thing. Climax then is not the sexual signification of the phallus. It's beyond. It's the first step beyond. It extracts us from signification. If Lacan puts that in the order of the thing. The thing has the value of something beyond the phallic significance. It is without reason. The body is there. It speaks, if it does, words without signification. This is the source of the metaphor. When we can read that in the instance of the letter, when he presents the power of the metaphor, or in well, I have the reference if you need it. But more interesting, on a question prior to any possible treatment of psychosis, he describes the language phenomena associated to delusion. He's analyzing the speech of Schreber, and he presents the case of that woman that in the steps of his home he has the delusion, the audible delusion, a voice that says so. Lacan says so, flanks the author, to give a name to the body of the woman that speaks to Lacan, that speaks to Lacan in one of his presentations. This name, so, gathers the fragmented body that is alluded in the words preceding. I have just been to the Port Botches. He says that, but that's a banal sentence, but for the patient, that is the expression of her own fragmented body. She doesn't know what she has said, but from the real comes the word so. This name gathers then the fragmented body. In the is the same approach to the thing. The communication is lost, and la langue says the being, or the lack of being enclosed in the act. That Lacan in the text, I have it here, speaks. Sorry. In the locus, where that's the writings of Lacan, the preliminary question. In the locus where the unspeakable object was rejected into the real, a word made itself heard because in coming to the place of what has no name, it was unable to follow the subject's intention without detaching itself from it by the dash that introduces the reply, opposing its disparaging antistrophe to the grumbling of the strophe that was thus restored to the patient with the index of the I, resembling in, we could say now, the index of the one, more than the I. The I is the ish, Freudian ish thing, resembling in its opacity the exclamations of love. This opacity is the opacity of the thing, of that thing. When, running short of signifiers to call the object of its epithalamium, it employs the crudest imaginary means. I'll eat you up. my sweetie. You'll love it. You, dog, you. That in French is chou. Ah, chou, that
Cabbage.
Cabbage, cabbage, and rat. When the body of the other,
Little mouse more than rat.
mice, Mickey Mouse, the body of the other becomes the thing. Then comes out that word without sense. Is that the climax? Lacan then, in the preliminary question, puts that word in the level of the delusion. Not because it's a delusion, but because it's the same kind of treatment of language beyond the pole, when phallic significance disappears in the real. Then from the real, then from la langue, we say, that real language is la langue. From the la langue emerges, comes up, springs, a word without signification. That's the nature of the semblant, the nature of la langue. Something that springs from the real. Then we try to speak a common language. We never do. Lacan continues in then the communication, that's me that comments, the seminar 7. The communication is lost, and the la langue says the being, the lack of being in course of the act. In the genital act there is a loss of being, a loss of semblance. Then, a happiness, there is no more pretending, it's real. Lacan continues, in this act, and only at this moment, he may simulate with his flesh the consummation of what he is not under any circumstances. I think that the key of this sentence is the coincidence of two contradictory terms, the simulation and the consummation. Only at this moment he may simulate with his flesh the consummation of what he is not under any circumstances. That's the lesson that sex teaches to love. The act sways the semblance. Le semblant vacille.
They're
Sways.
shaken, they vacillate.
I have a dictionary, a friend in France, that translated from many languages, and I have found sway. It's like that? Shaken. No, but we shake. But the thing.
Oscillation.
Trembles.
Oscillation.
Trembles.
Well, I was trying to play with it. Well, the act destabilizes the semblance, but the facts are real. It's like the sentence in Freud at the beginning of the science of dreams, interpretation of dreams. Flectere sine quae supero saceronta movebo. If heaven be firm, the shades shall move. Or another translation, if I cannot bend the will of heaven, I shall move hell. For us, I can only move the semblance, and it's with that that I shall move the real. The reason of a teaching in psychoanalysis is to keep on preparing ourselves for the hubris that comes from that operation. Thank you. ku rev na agif.
Well, thank you very, very much for a talk that contains so much and I think a lot of questions. We don't have that much time, so maybe I go straight to the audience. I'm sure there's people who would like to ask a question, make a comment. Maybe I start. And is it possible to briefly go back to pornography? And would you say that pornography is the way the pornography films are constructed, precisely an artificial limit on feminine jouissance? Is let's say the attraction of pornography a complete attempt to combat effectively feminine jouissance? After all, isn't the cut of the film the orgasm of the male, mostly?
Yeah. In general pornography, there's the supposition of limit.
Yes.
It's man that puts it.
Yes.
Then in the clinic we say that, for example, the illimitation of that.
Yeah.
The man, I have, there are many cases in literature, a man that looks at pornography in the internet and he copies in his hard disk films,
yes,
one after the other. And then a sense of culpability comes to him. He erases all, he cleans up
yes,
everything,
yes,
and begins, that's the jouissance of the symptom.
Yes.
That's another dimension. But I was alluding to the changes in pornography.
Yes.
We could, it can be done. Probably in some American university there's somebody publishing about that. It was the pornography of our grandfathers was these photos naked, yes, women. In France there were photos of a naked woman with a man with an erection. That's I have seen, for example, Pierre Louis, a writer, French writer, that wrote a series of poems called Les Chansons Divinities, that are a mock classical text, a mock Greek classical text, edited with notes, everything, and it's the process of the initiation of a girl. And I saw somewhere, don't ask me where, a photo of that man with prostitutes and showing an erection. That was very infrequent, but in France that was another level. Due to their centuries of libertinage, that was a custom. That's well, that's another story. Then came the pornography in magazines with degrees, Playboy. The Hustler was the most hard one, I think.
Yeah.
And it showed feminine vulva.
Yeah.
And, then with internet, the printed pornography disappeared, and there are no more magazines because internet there's everything. Another level was a student of mine, I think in the clinic section in Barcelona, wanted to do a work about modern films. I don't go to the movies, and he gave me, I saw a film where there is a scene where Monica Bellucci, beautiful, is violated 10 minutes alone. I saw that in high speed because it was unbearable.
Mm.
Because it was a violation, and at the end she dies.
Mm.
She's an aggression, she's violated, and she's beaten, and then she's destroyed. 10 minutes alone in a film. 10 minutes is very much in a film, in a modern film. How it's a modern film, well, it was a film that was shown that, to show that. It's, for me, it's beyond imagination. It's not a sexual act. I don't have nothing to say about the 50 Shades of Grey, not written, not film, because I think what I used to say is that reading Histoire d'eau, you have in 100 pages all the volumes of 50 Shades of Grey. It's quite well written, Histoire d'eau, and it goes. It tries to go beyond phallic signification, and then there's this master-slave relationship is another thing, is another dimension. But in this moment, there's, for example, there's a, you can visit. No, it demands the inscription. But there's a woman. I am trying to have more information in the United States that how is this? Well, is a web page where anybody can upload any sex scenes from himself, masturbation, sex, everything, and there is no more an actor. Everyone is actor of his own sexuality. There are no more the glamour, if it was one of the. And then I think in this moment, pornography exists, but it has an ironic dimension. I think, and well, I can't say very much about pornography because it has its limits. It has a limit. Is usually is an obsessional. It's inscribed in obsessional symptom. But, I think more interesting what Miller says. It's the degree zero. It's the degree zero. Anyone with anyone, either sex and or 2, 3, or can do anything. That to reach phallic signification, but phallic meaning, it reaches the degree zero. Because phallic meaning is everywhere, and there's nothing special in that pornography. And then there's the other dimension is the transformation of the bodies. Sharon Stone was the sexual actress with his film, and then I saw a photo of her after plastic surgery, not catching it, but showing I have done plastic surgery, but I think I am good. How do you find my plastic surgery? There's no pretending.
Mm.
There's no more pretending. And plastic surgery can be a sort of makeup, but you know the dimensions we know that comes to a body event that goes beyond beautiful or reaching the standard beautiful of an epoch. We sexual pornography was, yes, 2 films, old films, very old films. Deep Throat was oral Vicens, and Je t'aime moi non plus was anal sex. It shows it's old. That's ce vieux jeu. It's very old. It's
1970s.
yeah.
It's nearly 1 o'clock. Is there another question? Yeah. Sorry.
No.
No, just
Sure.
just one thing, because when you mentioned this degree 0, that in how you brought the notion of transference there, I would have put them precisely in transference in the antipode of pornography.
Of course.
If you
Yes. Pornography is the degree 0 of phallic significance. The 0 of the psychoanalysis, if I try to introduce the new concept of transfer, of course it's more complicated than that, but to be brief, it's a 0 of jouissance that permits the spring, the presence of a new signifier. That's not phallic. It's jouissance, not phallic jouissance. That when the degree 0 in psychoanalysis of the psychoanalyst was treated with the name of
abstinence neutrality.
Abstinence neutrality. Lacan didn't practice this neutrality, as we can know from his clinic. That neutrality that was ritualized. But there's another dimension we try to reach with our analysis, is what we try to understand from out of the testimonies of the AI, how they reached a 0 of sense, more than signification, more than meaning. A 0 of sense is always peculiar, personal, contingent for everyone. There's no law with degree 0 of phallic significance, meaning we have a universal, phi 0. But what we are trying to reach is the 0 in the order of jouissance, not in the degree of desire. That when in the seminar 11, where there are many important things for us, because that seminar is an affirmation of Lacanism, is where proper Lacanism began, as when Lacan was banned from the International Psychoanalytic Association. He began his own teaching with his own terms. That's the reason why he returns to Freud with unconscious repetition, pulsion, and transference. But he extracts some terms from Freud, giving a completely new meaning. Then one of the things he said is the desire of the analyst is not pure. And that's very important. The jouissance, what is jouissance? We are trying to understand what is jouissance. But how can we sustain a zero in the order of the jouissance? Not a zero of jouissance. That's unthinkable for me. But a zero in the order of the jouissance. Then is this moment when perhaps the body loses all attached to phallic meaning, phallic signification. When body is real. Then in the testimonies of the AI we found, as Vicloran reminds in these classes, in this seminar, all AI, very often the AI speak about a body event at the end of the analysis, or in the moment of the analysis. And a body event is not a phallic event at all. It can be, but it's not. We have not the rule. What I am trying to understand for us is, with phallic signification, we have a rule. We try to extract, to read that rule in the writings of Lacan, but with jouissance, we don't have the rule of jouissance, not transgression. Jouissance was understood as a transgression in Seminar 7, for example. The logic of jouissance is the jouissance of the transgression. In Seminar 17, we read that sentence, that important sentence: we never transgress. We never transgress. On se faufile. We pass through. Then everything changes in psychoanalysis. We are not trying to reach the logic of jouissance through the logic of transgression. Transgression means a rule. In the Seminar 7, he takes the text of St. Paul. The law is invented. If there not was law, there will not be sin, and like I said, there was not desire. There in Seminar 7, desire and jouissance are very near, almost the same thing. We speak of Antigone in terms of desire, of terms in jouissance is more or less the same, but when Lacan splits one from the other, jouissance in French is very clear. Le désir is masculine, la jouissance is feminine. And then we reach another psychoanalytical space, is the one we try to explore without map. There's no map. There's no compass. It's the desert. It's invention.
Yeah. What works?
What works? Works.
I think we leave it there, if that's okay. Thank you so much for this fantastic talk. And
thank you to your patience with my
no, it was good.